Before I began the research for my Hearts Beat Red project, I was working on writing a remake of the Krays film, which put me in touch with a number of underworld figures, including the Richardson gang member Mad Frankie Fraser and Ronnie Krays' close friend Laurie O'Leary. I was offered their support, but told by the latter that Roberta Kray, Reggie Kray's widow, along with pop group The Who's manager Bill Curbishley, had sold the rights for a remake of the twins' story to Hollywood, which may well have resulted in becoming the Tom Hardy 2015 film Legend. Both men warned me that I was at risk of opening a can of worms with my intention to research the lives of the 60s gangsters, hoping to deliver a more accurate portrayal than I felt had been done with the 1990 film starring the Kemp brothers from pop group Spandau Ballet. At the time, I was naive enough to believe that the Krays were only guilty of gangland killings, having heard the typical stories of how safe the streets were under their protection. But then it turns out most streets were a lot safer back in the 60s anyway, as I have heard similar stories from people growing up in different parts of the country. In my younger years, I held a more romantic view of the underworld, and especially, like a lot of people, the Kray twins. But with what I have learned over the years from others with connections to their firm, I'm glad that I did not continue with the Krays project, as I now understand what the can of worms Mad Frank and Laurie may have been warning me of. Claims that Reggie Kray was still running business from behind bars I have had personally verified by the second president of my dad's former Hells Angels chapter, who had a neighbouring cell with Reg at Leicester's Gartrey prison in the 80s. I'd heard rumours, when I was growing up, that he and Reg Kray had run an enterprise together behind bars that led to a fallout, which resulted in them both coming to blows. But this was not true, and just a case of Chinese whispers by members of the club, I was told by him years later. He divulged, however, on a visit to my house in Wales, where I was living at the time, that Reggie had clearly still been conducting business and was not short of money or an entourage. But other than passing the time of day, that was all the involvement they had with one another. To be honest, I do not think he was impressed by the twins, and if he had an inkling of the claims of child trafficking and abuse being made against the brothers today, I am sure that he and Reg would most certainly have had serious disagreements, and the stories of them coming to blows would have had a firmer base of truth. A well-known Conservative MP of the day, Lord Robert Boothby, the former private secretary and friend of Sir Winston Churchill, defended the violent Kray twins in the House of Lords. Boothby and others were able to gag the press and hush up other politicians, delaying the Krays' arrest for 5 years. Kray twins biographer John Pearson wrote in a Daily Mail article that
this cover-up, I can reveal, went to the very doors of 10 Downing Street. The police were told to back off.
In an article in The Independent on Sunday, Pearson said that the peer, Boothby, and Labour MP Tom Dryburgh engaged in gay sex orgies with teenaged boys, and that the Krays had a compromising photograph of Boothby with an inscribed copy of his memoirs. The twins, protected for a long time by the police and key figures of Parliament, had, it has been claimed, access to many children's homes, from which young boys would be taken and supplied with drink and drugs for their sex parties, which would include a number of high-profile names that have been linked to the Kray twins, including high-positioned politicians and well-known showbiz celebrities such as Joe Meeks, Alan Freeman, and of course, Jimmy Savile. Under a 2014 article titled Mossad's Links to Filthy Britain, the Coleman Experience reported,
according to Brian Palmer, the police took away masses of paperwork after the death of Jimmy Savile, which was said to have been immediately incinerated. It has been said that a lot of correspondence was in the pile from the ex-Israeli Prime Minister, Menahem Begin, whom rumor has it was Savile's main protector.
A number of sources highlight Mossad's involvement with numerous intelligence agencies around the world, including the British MI5 and MI6, as well as the CIA, to not only protect the elite paedophile rings, but also to be heavily involved in the trafficking of children, as well as people all over the world. As well as the Moors murderers and the royal family, Savile maintained his long-term friendship with not only Ronnie Kray, but Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, whose prolific activities had led to the disgraced DJ being questioned as a suspect for the murders of the unfortunate women killed by the Ripper, with Sutcliffe apparently mentioning his friend Savile during his interrogation following his arrest in 1981. Alleged Savile victim Georgina Martin said,
"When we went out in his car, he would point out spots where dead bodies had been found, and claim the Ripper had not been working alone. He told me he had been questioned by police, after the body of a young girl was found near his home, covered in bite marks. Jimmy said they had made him hand over a sample bite mark, but he was always bragging about how he was protected, and had people who looked after him."
Considering the level of protection Savile enjoyed from the highest levels of the corporate establishment, along with his boasts that he knew people who could make people disappear, he certainly seemed to enjoy immunity from prosecution. So it is not a far-reaching ponderance to wonder, therefore, if his friendship with Ian Brady and Myra Hindley was more than an interest in the disturbing photography it is believed he purchased from them, and could the self-professed wizard have joined the witch Hindley and alchemist Brady on Saddleworth moors to conduct evil sacrifices. Savile's personal assistant of many years, Janet Cope, told Louis Theroux that Jimmy Savile had a direct line to Downing Street.